What's up, Digital Business Evolution? Today we've got a spicy episode, not just because I get a little bit spicy, but because it's actually content that was created straight from the heart and delivered directly to our clients in one of our paid containers. That's right. After going live in one of our paid containers and getting off my soapbox, we actually had dozens of clients telling us that we should repurpose this content for the public, that this content would be really powerful. And this is a message that needs to be shared. And it's a reminder that many of us need to hear, probably more often than not. So as you listen, I ask that you remove your rose-colored lenses and just take in everything that I have to say. Remember, this was created on the fly for our paying clients. So I guess you get a taste of spicy Jess, as my clients like to say. But you're also going to hear the raw and real emotion behind what I'm sharing. As always, I hope you enjoy. You are in the most beautiful place right now. You are in the best place that you could be. Heck, honestly, sometimes there are moments that I wish I can be back where you are. Not that I'm ahead or better, but in this journey, I might be further along. So here's what I mean. Back when I was in college, and you may have experienced this in like college or high school as well, my parents used to tell me all the time, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. Like, soak it all in while you're here. This is the best time of your life. You have no responsibilities. You have no worries. You know, all you have to do is get good grades and be a kind person." And that was about it, right? You're not an adult. You don't have children. You don't have bills to pay. You don't have a mortgage. You don't really have responsibility. And especially when I was in college, I even took time and studied abroad. And they just used to tell me all the time, be present, be grateful. This is the best time. And that is exactly where you are right now in your business. Most of you. So most of you in here, many of you in here, some of you have 9-to-5 jobs. Some of you have additional side jobs or side hustles or part-time jobs in addition to your coaching business, because most of you in here haven't really gone all in on your coaching business yet. And what that means for you is that you have some level of a safety net. You have some person, some company, some place that's essentially investing in you. And they're basically like giving you a grant that you never have to pay back so that you can go build this thing on the side. And so when I was really unhappy in teaching, I taught for 8 years, and the last 2 years I was really, really unhappy. I got to change the mindset every day when I drove to school. And I started thinking about my board of education, who was paying me $50,000 a year. I started thinking of it as a loan that I didn't have to pay back. You might think I'm crazy, but when I reframed that this board of education was essentially paying me and giving me benefits and healthcare and summers off and holidays and weekends, so that in my free time, even if that was 10 o'clock at night, on my free time, even if that was, a Sunday afternoon or a Friday night when my girlfriends were asking me to go out for cocktails, that was my free time. I chose to invest some time and energy into this side hustle that you see today, into this business that you see today. And so when I could reframe that me going to work was simply this board of education giving me this loan that I never had to pay back, it all of a sudden felt a lot lighter. I was a lot more excited to show up for work every day. And at the same time, I was a lot more excited to show up for my cute side hustle. I felt less pressure around my side hustle. I didn't have to make it work. Now, that's not everybody in here, because there are some of you in here who did go all in on this side hustle, who really do need this to work, and I get that. But I'm also going to reframe, because the majority of you in here, in fact, I think almost all of you, you don't have teams yet. You don't really have high overhead yet. A lot of you didn't even invest in Kajabi or a platform like it yet because you wanted to see sales coming in, because you don't have a ton of revenue or profits yet. And so what I want you to understand is that while you might be coming to an end of this 12-week program, which I've now said a million times, you're on your own path, you're on your own journey, you're on your own timeline, right? Like, you can't be behind. You could be behind on our homework, but you can't be behind in your business. What I want you to recognize is that right now is one of the best places you could be. I'm not complaining. I'm just showing you a reality. I'm holding up a mirror and saying, hey, the reality of it is, for Mike and I, this is it. Now, if shit hit the fan, for lack of a better term, we could go get a job. We could go do something else. We could figure out something else. But at the end of the day, this business is our income, both of us. And so there's a lot on the table. There's a lot on the line. We also have really, really, really high overhead. We have tons of contractors on the team, and we have W-2 employees on the team. And so there is a lot of extra pressure, and this is what they say, what they mean when they say new levels, new devils. There's a lot of extra pressure. I'll take it. I'm excited. I love it. Like, bring on the challenges. But there's this extra weight of, we literally have other people to pay so that they can pay their rent and put food on the table. Not to mention, as the business grows and you scale, so do the other things that you invest in. And I'm not just talking about the mastermind that we're at right now, because that is definitely a luxury. But there are things that we do in the business that you might not be doing yet, that you might not be even thinking about yet, that might not even be an opportunity for you yet, because the income, the revenue, and the profit isn't at that level. So there are things like, oh my gosh, our overhead alone with, yes, Kajabi and Canva, but the legal fees and the accounting fees and the payment processors and all these other platforms that we're using. We don't even use Kajabi anymore for checkout. We use a different platform for checkout that we have to pay for. And now we're running this quiz, which is a really cool lead mag that costs money every month. And we have all of these different platforms that we're paying for. It's by choice, but it's also what happens when you're scaling a business. So we have the people of overhead. We have the platforms of overhead. We've got coaches that we're paying. There's tons of coaches, right, in Empower that we're paying. And so when you get to a different level, it actually doesn't always become easier. Oftentimes it might become a little bit harder. And so I want you to recognize the season that you're in. And again, I'm speaking to 98% of you probably. The season that you're in, you may never be here again, which is so cool and is so beautiful. But the key here, there's one thing I'm trying to I'm going to put a bow on everything as I wrap this up in what I'm saying. There's one word. There's one thing that I hope that you can remember, that I hope that you can take from this. There's one thing that I promise you, if you strengthen your relationship to this one thing, you'll have a lot more fun along the way. And so this one word starts with the letter P. And it's a word that you might think of when you think of children or waiting for, a garden to grow. We talk about it all the time in here, harvesting a garden, planting seeds. If you're on here, what's the word? What do you think? It starts with a P. And when you can strengthen your relationship to this one word, I promise you, you'll be having a lot more fun along the journey. And so while you think about it, I'm going to keep talking. We come to the end of a program like Empower. And I say we because we do this, all of us humans collectively. And we think that if we didn't make a sale, if we didn't get to launch, if we never finished our freemium, if we didn't make back our investment, then we didn't have success. And we're going to talk about this during our graduation call, but I want you just to stop for a second. And this is why I really want you to tag your friends. And I want you to think about, what is your definition of success? Because quite frankly, the team and I, my definition of success for you when you come into Empower is not actually that you make your investment back. It's not that you have a mega booming launch. It's not that you make a ton of money. That is not my definition for success. My definition for success for you when you come through Empower is that you leave a different person than you came in. That's my definition for success. Is that you got out of your comfort zone once. If it was more, great, but once. That you did something new, that you tried something different. Maybe that was getting on a live. Maybe it was reaching out to somebody in the DMs. Maybe it was getting on a call with someone here in this room the very first week before you all knew each other and you made a connection call. Maybe it was raising your hand on a coaching call and asking a question. Maybe it was turning your video on a coaching call rather than hiding behind your picture or name on your screen. And so for me, if you got out of your comfort zone, if you tried something new, if you're leaving here a different person, if you've switched a way that you think about something, if you have a deeper awareness now around triggers and habits and patterns and thoughts, not that you have had to change all of them, but if you have an awareness, if you're recognizing things like that, if you leave with a new friend, If you leave a different person than you came in, then I believe you had success in this program. There will be a reason that you can't see right now that you joined us. And so if you leave these 12 weeks and you didn't have the launch you wanted, or you didn't make back the money yet, I just want you to remember it's all about patience. Be grateful for where you're at. You can't get to the next step if you don't step on the current stone you're on. When we talk about that, moving across the river, you're simply on a step right now in the river. You're on a stone in the river. You're not supposed to be all the way across. That wasn't the path of this journey. Businesses aren't built in 12 weeks. And I know it can feel really frustrating and really confusing and really triggering when you do have classmates that are having launches that might feel or look like more successful than you. And it can be really confusing and frustrating, right? And disappointing. Well, he's doing this and she's doing that, and they closed clients and they made money, and I'm stuck and I'm not there, and I didn't finish my opt-in, and I feel stressed and I hate Kajabi, and someone said no, and I didn't get a sales call and no one applied, and I had a silent launch. And so you compare yourself to other people. But I dare you to go out in the real world and find me a business that was built in 12 weeks. Find me a brick and mortar business that was signed the lease and built with tons of clients coming in with retention and totally, finished walls and decorated places in 12 weeks. Find me a $1 billion company that was built in 12 weeks. You're not going to be able to, because they're not built in 12 weeks. So as long as you're leaving a different person than you came, the journey continues. Your business is not done. And if you want proof of that, just take a look at me. Borrow the evidence. I've been doing this really for 10 years, but for 5 years full-time. For 5 years full-time, I've been doing this. Coaching. Business coaching. Putting people through programs. Empower is 4 years, 4.5 years, 4 years old, 4.5 years old. Right? Year after year after year after year, patience. If I gave up after my first launch because it didn't go the way that I wanted it to, or maybe 0 people enrolled, then I literally wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have Empower. I wouldn't have the multiple 7-figure business. I would have never retired Mike, who's sitting here with me. I wouldn't be at this mastermind. We wouldn't have our school in Ghana. We wouldn't have the team that you have. It's patience. This is a game of delayed gratification. And I told you, and I've told you multiple times, when we started in a couple other coaching calls, not all of you are going to graduate with us. Some of you are going to drop off. Some of you are going to run away and hide. Some of you are embarrassed and ashamed, and that's okay. But just know I'm not mad. The coaches and I aren't mad. We're not disappointed in you. You didn't come in here to get a grade, right? So it's on you. This is your journey. You invested in you. You did not invest in me. And I want you to be clear. I want to be clear on that. But I also want to be clear that a $5,000 investment in yourself is no joke. So if 12 weeks ago you were on a high and you were so excited to finally make a change, and you were so excited to finally pull the trigger, and you were so excited to finally join a program that was going to give you the framework and the support and the accountability, and I can confidently say that on our end we've done our part, all I'm asking is for you to reflect on your part. Not to beat yourself up, not to get annoyed, not to self-sabotage, but just ask yourself. Because here's the thing. You get Empower for life. For the lifetime of Empower. You get to go through the modules again. The clients that we talk about that have continued on to build $1 million businesses, I'm telling you right now, they go back into the portal. I had a client yesterday reach out to me and ask proactively. This is a client who went through Empower 2 years ago. Hey, by any chance, have you updated the videos recently? She could have looked, but she asked me. I said, yeah, in fact, this round I updated all of them. She said, great, I'm going to go back. One of my one-on-one clients that I'm working with right now, who actually never went through Empower, but because she's a one-on-one client, she gets access to Empower. She asked if I had any really good trainings for sales. She's been in business 20 years, and she asked if she could have sales help. So I told her that there was a new video in the Empower portal. Use the portal over and over. She watched it. She came back and she said, I closed the last 2 people that I spoke to. It was so helpful to watch. We were talking about it at lunch today. We're with our friends who are all 7 and multiple 7-figure earners at this mastermind. And we were out to lunch and we were talking about how it's so funny. it's so humbling that so many of us have been able to build these really great businesses, these really successful businesses. And then you get to a point, I can't tell you a number, but I'll tell you that everyone I'm surrounded with feels the same way. You get to this point in your business where all of a sudden you're like, things, it's not that they're not as easy, but they're not clicking the way that they used to click. And so what we were talking about at lunch was the power of going back, and how all of us running these 7 and multiple 7-figure businesses, and even my mentor who runs an 8-figure per year business, are going, damn, we got to go back to niche. We got to go back to ideal client. I need to go back to the drawing board. The team and I are doing this right now. I want you to understand it's not one and done. You didn't learn the content 12 weeks ago, 11 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago for you to never go through it again. You didn't learn the content once for you never to have to refine it, tweak it, learn it again. You might remember I talked about this a lot at the beginning, but there's a level of understanding. And as a teacher, I believe that we learn something, but we have to hear what we learn. And when we hear it, we have to comprehend it, right? You have to understand it. Who here has ever read a page in a book and you get to the bottom, you're like, what the hell did I just read? You go back to the top, you do it like 4 times. You're like, what did I just read? You have to comprehend what you're learning. So you have to learn it, right? You have to hear it, and then you comprehend it. Once you comprehend and understand it, you then have to integrate it. We've been doing this for 12 weeks. For some of us, we haven't integrated it enough. We haven't done it enough. We haven't tried it enough. We literally just haven't done it enough. I don't know how else to say it. Especially for those of us who are newer to the industry or who made a pivot or who had never been building a business before and your audience wasn't warmed up to it. Because the reality of it, it's been a 12-week program, but maybe we're only integrating for 3 weeks. So of course people aren't ready. Of course, maybe you're not even ready. You might not even be fully clear. And so you integrate it in your life, doing it over and over and over and over again. How long does it take a child brushing their teeth in the morning and at night for it to become a habit? Some kids, it takes years. They hate doing it. So you integrate it. And after you've integrated it into your life, only then does it start to become a habit and you fully embody it. We all know this. Everybody in here takes care of themselves. We eat healthy, we move our body, we exercise. Some of us do meditation, breath work, journaling. It doesn't happen overnight. And even still, you can be doing these things and have these habits and embody different things for years, decades, and then all of a sudden slip backwards. Life gets in the way. You have a death in the family. You're super stressed out. You're traveling. And all hell breaks loose. Shit hits the fan. You just stop. Right? So how dare us think that in 12 weeks, we're done? How silly. How silly. This work is never done. This work is never done. So what makes you think that the business work would always be done or never be done? Right? I'm not yelling at you and I'm not preaching. I want you to remember the importance of patience. Amazon took 10 years to turn a profit. 10 years to turn a profit. Not 10 years to put out their first offer. Not 10 years to show up and try something. Not 10 years to launch something. Not 10 years for anything other than turning a profit. That means for 10 years, Amazon just kept trucking along. They had trust, they had faith, they had patience, they surrendered. One day it's going to work. I know the vision. I see the vision. One day it's going to work. Do you know how easy it would have been to quit? Not even after year 1, after the first or second launch of something when they weren't profitable. That's what happens to, honestly, most coaches, most business owners, most entrepreneurs. What do they say? 2% of businesses, I think 2% of businesses succeed after the first, or survive after the first 3 years. Who the heck would stand around for 10 years? One day it's going to work. One day it's going to work. Especially because at that point, there's no way in hell the people around them are saying, yeah, keep going. It sounds like a good idea. I think at that point, most people would say, maybe it's time to hang it up. Maybe it's time to throw in the towel. We've been doing this for 12 weeks. And if you're listening right now and you're like, no, Jess, you're the second course I've taken. You know what? Even if you've been doing it for a year and a half, 3 years, that's nothing in the grand scheme of things. That's nothing. What do they say? Everything worth waiting for, right? Everything good is worth waiting for. Something along those lines, right? Patience. Do not throw in the towel. Do not throw in the towel. We've shared the story so many times about Shannon, right? If you knew your fourth launch was going to be multiple 5 figures, how fast would you move through 1 through 3? Now, blow that up and expand it. If you knew your second launch, if you knew your 10th launch, if you knew your 4th iteration, if you knew your first year, gosh, I heard something the other day. I actually wrote a post about it this morning on the plane. The reason most people don't make money is because they can't wait to make money. Most people throw in the towel after 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. What if you knew that in 3 years, you'd be running $1 million business? If you knew that in 3 years, you'd be running $1 million business, would you, tell me honestly, would you throw in the towel right now because you're frustrated or impatient or discouraged or tired? If you knew, like I literally had, I don't know what I went to go grab. There's nothing here. If I took a check and I was like, I will give this to you. It's $1 million business in 3 years, but you got to stick around. You got to keep going. Would you do it? Would you do it? That's the question. Because that's what's possible. Not that everybody wants that, but I want you to understand, because looking backwards, that was literally me. My first launch, I had 4 people enroll. And 3 of them were on scholarship, like paying half price, and 1 was a barter. And then 2 years, 18 months later, I was doing $1 million business. I had hit my first $1 million. You have to keep moving. You get to keep moving. You're all like, duh, roll up the sleeves. Of course, like who the hell wouldn't do it? Who wouldn't wait? So then why are we so quick to throw in the towel when after 12 weeks it didn't work? It is working. It's just underneath the ground. It is working. You have to let the roots get strong. It is working. You have to let the soil get rich and the water come down and the sunlight. It is working. We've used all of the analogies. Little kids trying to walk, right? Babies, toddlers, whatever however old they are. We don't yell at them and tell them to quit after the first time they fall down. We tell them to get up and get up and get up and get up. And we have patience. We're not mad when they keep falling. In fact, adults are like, it's funny. You laugh. You're like, oh my God, you're okay. Get up. Do it again. Here's a walker. Do it again. Here are my fingers. Okay, do it again. Here's a table. Do it again. And then one day they start walking. It's the same thing in business. I can't even imagine waiting 10 years to turn a profit. But holy crow, talk about you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Despite your opinion on Jeff Bezos and Amazon, could you imagine how he feels right now? Thank goodness I didn't throw in the towel after 10 years of not being profitable. Is it one of the biggest companies in the world? I think it's one of the biggest companies in the world. Safe to say. One of the richest men, that's for sure. So, patience is what I want you to lean into. If you are leaving next week a different person than you came in 12 weeks ago, which you are, then there's your success. You get to rewrite the definition of success. You came in and you wrote it. I asked you to on the welcome call. And most of you wrote stuff that had nothing to do with financials. I remember going over it. So I challenge you to find that piece of paper. I challenge you to find that note that you jotted down. Circle back. What was your definition of success when we came in at the beginning? And then don't judge yourself, but take note of how it slipped away. How maybe you got blinded by some shiny objects or what other people were doing. You're peeking over the arm, right, of what someone else was doing on their desk. And you started to compare. And you started to create a different narrative. And you quickly rewrote this definition and forgot all about why you initially had come in. And so if you came here to grow, I'm pretty sure you did that. If you came here to learn something, I know you did that. If you came to get uncomfortable, I can pretty much say you did that too. And if you came because you want to build a business and you want to make money, then you need to have patience. All right? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.